In An American in Paris, you can see lots of themes that come from the queer community, and queerness is very laid out throughout this whole film. And one of the ways that I saw queerness being represented in this film was through camp. Now, you might be thinking no one was camping in this movie, but that's not the camp I'm talking about. An American in Paris came out in 1951, and during the 1950s, queer people were treated very poorly. They faced lots of social discrimination. Lots of LGBTQ plus people faced prosecution for indulging in homosexuality acts, and they were just completely alienated from the heteronormative society because they were seen as a threat. And since they were treated so poorly and just completely exiled from the society, queer people made their own communities and their own cultures. And a lot of times, these cultures defined and went against everything that came from the heteronormative. And one of these cultures that came from it is camp. Camp is an exaggeration and is theatrical. It is playful and it is ironic, and it totally floats away from realism and just embraces total fantasy. And during this time in the 1950s, it felt as if queer people, the only place where they could be accepted and live as who they were was in a fantasy world. So they expressed this through camp ideas. The way camp shows itself in An American in Paris within the production and filmmaking of this movie is that the world that this movie is based in is that the reality is that this is all a performance. It highlights a lot on art. And the way that this is shown is the, emphasis on color and motion and light throughout the film. When looking at the camera movement of An American in Paris, the camera moves with the same flow of the exaggeration of the emotion that is being shown. So when we have moments of Jerry and Lisa embracing each other in a hug or a kiss, it's often very melodramatic, and it really tries to capture the sweetness of their moment. It will float with it. It will float with them. That's what the camera will do. But when you have big emotions shown, such as when Adam is having his one-man symphony, it is very fast and it moves fast with him and is very trying to highlight the, exaggeration of how he is feeling in that moment. The way that camp shows itself with the lighting in this film is that it does not try to make the frame look like this is a real life moment. It is showing it as this is a stage production, that this is a stage light that is capturing it. It is trying to highlight the fantasy of this film. It is trying to capture all the beauty in it. And if that beauty is being captured in a way that seems artificial, that is what it wants. That is what it's going to do. And when it comes to the set design of this film, again, it really highlights on artificial, concepts. Paris is not actually, that's not actually how Paris is going to be looking. It is much more of a fantasy of it. And this is because that during this time is that queer people often felt as if the only society that they would be able to fit in at that time is something of a fantasy. And, in this fantasy world, they can be who they are and they can express themselves in any way that they can. But due to the social discrimination that queer people are facing during this time, the only way that they can escape to this fantasy land is through art. One of the ways I feel camp is used to express emotion in this film, especially using performance, is Henry's Stairway to Paradise performance, where he is dancing with these women. And I feel as if this is displaying that his masculinity is not in a way of dominance, is that he is not dancing with these women because, he is this manly man who has all these women around him, but more so is that he kind of reflects himself and sees himself within them, that there is a common denominator within them. And this can be seen as putting a queer code towards Henry's character. Now, to me, one of the most camp moments in this film is the 17-minute long choreographed dance of what feels to me is Jerry dancing through his emotions and coming to terms with how he feels. Now, this is camp to me because it feels as if Jerry is going to this fantasy world, and in this fantasy world, he is going through all these different scenarios, and going through this is helping him come to terms and feel his emotions. And something that really sticks out to me in this moment, in this choreographed dance, is how there's influence of different artists like Raoul Duffy, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Vincent van Gogh, Henry D. Charles-Latreille, and I feel as if this is used to show how connected to art Jerry is, and how he is using how these artists and their art has made him feel to show how he feels within that moment. And I think that this is how queer people for years often express their feelings. Now, Jerry is not a queer character, and I don't view him as a queer-coded character, but I believe that he is being used as the outlet to express how queer people feel and show how art is a way to express yourself without having to say exactly what you're feeling. Often people can feel what you're feeling through your art if they've gone through the same thing. And I think that this really emphasizes on this fantasy world and escape from realism, which aligns itself with the camp ideas. American in Paris is a beautiful film that dives into what going beyond the limits of realism allows, and what beauty can come out of diving into fantasy. And we really have camp to thank for, you know, going beyond these boundaries. And camp comes from queer people, and when looking at camp and honoring camp, we are also honoring the queer community.